Hey, my name is Brent here on Cloudy with the Chance of Meeples. Today we are going to be trekking the world. We are going to be visiting all sorts of different locations like Teotihuacan or Cappadocia or maybe Uluru or a place I can't actually pronounce, so I'm not even going to attempt to doing it. But it's in Norway. And you stand on the cliff known as Pulpit Rock with its unparalleled panoramic view of Leesfjord. 3 of its sides are sheared off, leaving an unobstructed view of Norway from 604 meters up. A surge of wanderlust inspires you to book your next trip. That looks amazing. I just learned something new. But we are going to be trekking the world in the second edition of Trekking the World. So let me show you how this one plays in the radar overview. My final forecast coming up. Cue the thunder. So the radar overview for Trekking the World 2nd Edition looks something like this. In this game, you will be trekking the world. Each player will start with a suitcase and a matching pawn of the same color. I will say you also get these other colors. You got teal, brown, like a lemony yellow, as well as pink. And I love it that there's an orange one because I like playing orange in games, and not many games have orange characters. How do you play this game? Well, each player gets a quick guide, shows you on your turn, you take 2 steps, shows you how you're going to score points, and shows you what all the different tokens that you can get throughout the game do and how they interact. Well, on your turn, you will take one of these 5 itinerary cards and you'll go from the top down. So let's say I will take this one. I will then move 3 spaces. I can never double back. I can't go 1, 2, 3. I can just move along the board and not backtrack. So let's go 1, 2, 3. At that point, I gain however much money it shows. So in this case, $2. I put it in my little wallet. Represented by this little wheel. And then if I end in the continent or either the continents that's shown on the bottom, I gain a souvenir. So in this case, if I'm either in North America or Europe, I gain a red souvenir. And I put it in my suitcase. Anytime you cover up one of these icons, you gain the matching token. So I can get this little extra move token for a future turn. After you have done step 1, you will do step 2. And that is, you will either take a tour or an encounter if available at your current location. So the top row are the tours. The cost is in the bottom left corner. And the amount of points you get at the end of the game is in the bottom right corner. Or I can go on an encounter. And in this case, I am in Alhambra, so I will take this encounter. The encounters are either special abilities, a one-time use later in the game, a way to kind of manipulate your suitcase, or just give you a little special action, or they are endgame scoring. But in this case, I may move fewer steps than an itinerary says and gain 1 move token for each step not taken. So I will keep this here for a later turn. Let's say later on in the game I had, $9 and I was all the way over here. It would be my turn again, and let's say I would actually, in fact, use this. So move 2. Well, I'm going to use my one-time ability, saying I can move fewer steps than the itinerary shows. So I'm just going to move 1. I will gain 1 of these little red tokens, which I'll go over these tokens momentarily. I would then gain my $1. I'm in fact in Oceania, so I will gain a blue and a black cube. Put them into these slots. And then I could go on a tour. And, well, lo and behold, here we go. I'm going to go on this tour. It will cost me $8. So 10 minus 8 is $2 left. And then at the end of the game, I will get 19 points. This is a main way to, in fact, score points. I would make a little, little column here of all my completed tours. Game ends. when in a 2 and 3 player game, someone gets their 5th tour, or 4 tours in a 4 or 5 player game. I mentioned they have different tokens. Let me explain those. Anytime you cover up one of these things, that slots that show tokens, you gain these tokens. And what do? Well, the frequent flyer token you can spend at the beginning of your turn to fly from wherever you're at to any other airport on the board. I will also say that on a normal turn, if I started in an airplane, or not even started in an airport, let's say I started here and I did move 3, I could go 1, 2, and then I could fly to any airport. But it takes A, one of my movements, and B, it costs me $1 because flying ain't free. So that's what those frequent flyer tokens are. These little red ones, I forget what they're actually called. I think they might just be called, move token. You can use it. So, you know what? Instead of moving 1, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. And then I end up in Cappadocia. I can then get $3, but if I ever spend one of these money tokens, that doubles. I would get $6. And if I end up here, instead of 1 blue token, I can play one of these black tokens to double up to get 2 blue tokens. Or if I would have used this one, I would gain 2 black and 2 red tokens. So that's how these different tokens work, these itinerary tokens. And you want to then fill up your suitcases, because at the end of the game, you will gain points for the leftmost completed column of tokens, or souvenirs. So in this case, I would have 5 points. If I fill up the next column, I would get 10 points. You don't score for every column, but just the leftmost completed column. And of course, you have to go from left to right. At the end of the game, like I said, when either 4 or 5 tours are finished, depending on the player counts, you will go to endgame scoring, and you will count up all your tours. You will then add up points from endgame encounters, as well as your suitcase bonuses. And let me just explain some of these cards. So the Galapagos Islands, this encounter, at the end of the game, you get 10 points if you have fewer than 20 points in your suitcase. Whereas other ones, like Great Barrier Reef, at the end of the game, you get 5 points for each player with more tours than you. Obviously, this is better in a 4 or 5 player game versus just a 2 player game. But the thing about these cards is that the encounters are all in the back, and then the tours on the front. So you shuffle all these up every game. You split the deck. Half them become tours, half them become encounters. So every game is going to feel a little bit different. And to be totally honest, I've played this a handful of times already, and I've never played a game in which this actually was a tour. I've seen the encounter, because it lets you take an extra tour up to 3 spaces away, even if you've already taken a tour, which is pretty powerful. 2 tours in 1 turn is quite good, but I've actually never seen this tour, because every game is going to feel a little bit different. There is a solo mode in which you'll be playing a different level. So the medium level, you take out a tour valued at 5, 7, 8, whatever, 5, 6, 7, 7, 8, and then you have to claim all those, as well as score 20 points from your suitcase before this opponent deck runs out, or you lose. And so they have different difficulty levels from easy to extreme. But there you have it. That's what you get, or not what you get. That's how you play Trekking the World in a nutshell. Let's move on over now and take a look at the final forecast. So the final forecast for Trekking the World, the 2nd edition. I have not played the 1st edition of Trekking the World, so I cannot compare this game to that other game. I love Trekking Through History, and so I was intrigued by Trekking the World 2nd edition. Trekking Through History, which I have it here in front of me. I'm looking at the artwork, and I'm captivated by the artwork, much like I'm captivated by the artwork in Trekking the World. But Trekking Through History was one of my favorite games a number of years ago. So when I got this, I backed on Kickstarter. I was very excited to play it because it has the same artist, Eric Hibbler, and it's from the same team that, did the trekking line. I haven't played Trek in the National Parks, but I've heard good things about it. I'm a Canadian. The American National Parks don't speak to me as much as I would imagine someone in the United States. Let's talk about this game. This game is streamlined, and just turns are so quick and so snappy. It helps that they have this quick guide that players get, which also shows what all the tokens do. But on your turn, it's just you're taking one of the 5 itinerary cards. You're moving, you're gaining money, and if you're in the continent that it shows at the bottom, you gain those souvenirs, which you want to fill up your suitcase with, which I'll speak to momentarily. And then, depending on if you're in a city that has an encounter available or tour available, you can do one of those two things. So you can go on a tour, which then just you spend money and you just get straight points, 19 points for Taj Mahal. Or if you're in a city and you can claim an encounter, much like say you're visiting Christ the Redeemer in Brazil, you can take this and you can return one souvenir and gain an encounter card for the encounter row. You can use that on a later turn. This game has a bunch of combos that I have barely started to scratch the surface. And I'm excited to do that more and more as I play this game. If you've already caught on, I enjoy this game quite a bit. I'm going to give it an 80% chance Meeples, and we'll talk about that more momentarily. But you got the 48 cards, beautifully illustrated, showing the 48 places on the map. What I love about this is every game is going to feel different because you take this deck, you split it in half them become tours, half them become encounters. And so every game is going to feel different, and you can dig deep and find some pretty neat combos in these cards. And depending on, which ones come up, will reflect on how these cards will interact with each other. And so I find that just amazing, because what they did with only a deck of cards, 48 instead of 52, but with a deck of cards, and how every card is every card scores, but then every card has a special ability, but depending on which side is face up will reflect on how they interact. And that's to me, that's a brilliant game design, because it's almost like multi-use cards, but on opposite sides of the cards. And so I love that. I like the set collection. I'm a fan of set collecting games because I feel clever when I can just collect things, and then, there's just something about that. And there's something fun about, collecting these souvenirs and filling up your rows, and then you score your leftmost completed column. And I'm always trying to be like, I'm going to fill up my suitcase this game. I'm going to get everything. And I've yet to do it, but I think I've gotten pretty close to 30 points from my suitcase, which can be quite a bit considering with some of the most expensive or lucrative tours get you 22 points. So there's a lot to be said to fill up your suitcase, and the more you fill up, the certain rows will gain you special abilities, whether you can move more or fly around the world faster, double your income, double your souvenirs to get you even more souvenirs. And so it just makes you feel clever when you can use some of these combos in these cards to fill up your suitcases. I said I'm giving this one an 80% chance Meeples. I love this game. I don't love it as much as Trekking Through History. I feel that Trekking Through History, to me, is a little bit more of a crunchier puzzle. And in this one, it's more of it's a race, but you're trying to collect. It's more of a set collection. And I know Trekking Through History has, collecting things on your itineraries. I love that about that game. But I love this one, but I love Trekking Through History a little bit more. They're both fantastic games. Can you have them both in your gaming library? I think you can, because they present two very different gaming experiences. I feel this one is simpler to teach and to grasp because people can see the encounters, they can see the tours. They could just straight up get a couple decent sized tours and fill up their suitcase and have a good shot at winning. Whereas in Trekking Through History, There's a little bit more of the puzzle of the itinerary and your trek, and then the turn order structure is a little bit more complicated. I like that one more. This is still an absolutely fantastic game. I'm giving an 80% chance. Meeples, like I said a few times, just another winner. The cards in this game, I didn't talk about components yet. The components in this game are amazing. You have a little tray with all your tokens, got a lid. Setup is super quick. You open up a map, shuffle these, and you're ready to go. The card quality in this, from the first time I unboxed this game, and I showed Nicole multiple times, I was like, these cards feel like exceptionally high quality. And I don't know what it is. They're thick, they're linen finish, but they just feel exceptionally higher quality than other games that I've played, and I can't put my finger on it, but the top-notch quality from Underdog Games is seriously top-notch. So I love this game. Kind of my only cons would be the graphic design on these suitcases looks a little too cartoony for me, considering you have this nice artistic, like stylized artwork, and then the suitcases look a little bit cartoony. Also, it plays 2 to 5. I haven't played it at 5, and I don't know if I will be able to or want to, because unless I have a big enough table, I'm going to have to put someone on the end of the table. And for them to look across the whole map and then have all those cards on the other side of the table, I think they will lose out on some of the experience. At the same time, these will then be in front of them because you put this at the other end of the map. So unless you have a big enough table, you can sit on like the two sides. You don't have to have people on the end of the table. 5 players may not be the best player count for you, but fantastic game. If you're a fan of the trekking line, I think this is a great addition to your gaming library. Like I said, if you already have Trekking Through History, I think you could absolutely have this game because they are considerably different. This game is all about the comboing of these encounters. You're racing and you're drafting, but combos are fun. Who doesn't love cascading combos? I know I do. 80% chance of meeples for Trekking the World 2nd Edition. My name is Brent. Till next time, grab your umbrella. The forecast is cloudy with a chance of meeples.